Welcome back to Making History in KSP 1.4, and it's time to carry on with our missions. Specifically, I think I want to do a couple of missions at the same time. I think I want to build a new orbital station around Minmus rather than just around Kerbin. And I think I want to plant a flag on Minmus at the same time. The reason why we can take both of these at the same time is that this requires a pilot on the station, at least to fulfill this mission. Needs an antenna, a docking port, and can generate power, fair enough, with 5 Kerbals, or near the facility supporting 5 Kerbals. And this one just requires us to plant a flag on Minmus. So, let's take it. 1 and 2. Okay, so both of them have really quite good rewards, as you can see. And this will get our nice fun total back up to where we want it after the upgrade to the VAB. We're now up to 255 parts. So let's go and take a look at what we might put up there. We can modify the previous approach we took last episode, and we can do that to create a new launch. Let me just create this is a temporary craft so I can take it apart. So let's take this off. Usual rocket, you've seen that before. And in here, you'll see I've got a 2-part space station. What I've got on the top is a lander design. I'm using the more robust legs, although I think the leg explosions I previously had were a bug, and I think they're fixed in the upcoming KSP 1.4.3. And if you didn't see my realism overhaul episode yesterday, do notice that in 1.4.3 there's going to be a brand new airfield. So instead of just the ones that we got up here, Woomerang and the main launch pad, KSC, you now have a desert airfield in the desert. So, of course, very Kerbal-like, but is still down near the equator, I think. So, take a look at the KSP dev blog if you want to know more, but I think that patch is coming this week, so keep an eye out for it if you like to play Kerbal, and hopefully you do. So, here we've got a station. It's composed of a lander on the top. This comprises 1 occupancy for Jeb. Who have we got in there? Yeah, so there's 5 total. That's what we need for this. And Jeb's in there at the moment. Jeb and Val, they're both pretty even on experience, so no real feeling either way towards them. We do need to put an antenna on here, though. I didn't do that, so let's just put one of these on, shall we? On this side of things. And it's going to be piloted, so we don't have to worry too much about it. So let's put one of those on there, and then just for good measure, let's just put another one on this side. Okay, so what have we got? We've got the lander. It's a typical lander. It has a spark engine right in here. These 4 landing legs, hopefully they won't explode again. It's all to do with that whole bug, I think. Got a decoupler. And then we've got a probidobidyne, so we can fly this thing essentially when everything separates from each other. So we can switch vessel. This one, it doesn't really have any, or it won't have any engines attached, so it can't really do anything except reorient itself in space. It'll be able to keep itself powered, of course, and on the bottom here, if we just remove this decoupler for a second, there is a docking port. Okay, so that's the important thing for the mission. This is 3 occupancy, this is 1 lander can, and then we've got 1 at the top. Of course, when everything separates, then there won't be 5 occupancy then, but we'll already have fulfilled the mission by that point, so we should get lots of nice funding for that. So let's bring back the rest of the rocket and bring that in. So now we just have to make sure of the staging, so let's just quickly take a look at that. It's very similar to last episode, so the bottom should be fine. All going at once, then separating off, then our AJ10 stage, or REJ10 stage, will take over. We'll lose the payload fairings, then we will separate the rest of the station. That's probably going to be when we're already at Minmus. It's going to have to be that way, I think. Otherwise, we're going to have problems. So the thing we've got to be careful of there is that 5,930 will get us to Minmus, and hopefully that's going to be the case. I could look it up on a wiki, but why do that when you can just throw yourself into space, because we're not playing the Realism Overhaul mod on this particular playthrough. So the rest of this is all separation, so we don't need to be too worried about that, because as soon as we separate this, in fact, no, that's not the separation we want. Yeah, as soon as we separate this, This one won't matter anymore, it won't be there because this will be left behind. Then we've got our spark engine, the separation finally for coming back into land, and of course, a parachute. Make sense? Let's give it a go. Okay, so we're on our way out to nowhere, it seems. Yeah, that's because we're at a different inclination than Minmus is orbiting at. And we can still correct that when we're on our way out here. We just have to expend a little bit of fuel to do so, and not terribly very much. But since I got some questions asking me to explain more about maneuver nodes, well, I thought this would be a good opportunity to show it from scratch when you're already out on the way to nowhere and everything has to work correctly. So if we had a maneuver node here, and most of you will probably already know this, but just to briefly explain, prograde and retrograde is essentially the markers in the direction that you're orbiting or opposite to that direction. So in general, when you adjust those, you're pushing the other side of your orbit further out. So on this side, wherever our orbit is, it'll be pushing its opposite side out. That doesn't matter so much in this case, or we will adjust that a little bit. Normally that's when you're around a planet, you want to adjust the other side of your orbit. Dead easy to understand. It's the other 4 markers that cause people problems. So let's first of all adjust this a little bit. So we want to pull ourselves down. You can see our orbit's here, we need to go down a little bit. So we could have adjusted that, and the most efficient way to do it would be at the ascending nodes or descending nodes. So if I've got something targeted like, say, Minmus, which I have, on this orbital track that we're on, you'll see a descending node over here, and there will be an ascending node somewhere else. That's normally the position at which you'll change the inclination. So we're just going to do it randomly here in the middle of nowhere, just as a demonstration. We want to line up where we're going to, which is the orbit of Minmus, and then in this case, I'm just going to pull this down. Okay, you see our descending node shifts around here. So we've got ascending node down here, descending node here, and that's a good sign. If that descending node and ascending node is shifting, it's a good sign you've got things more right anyway. You'll see we're not quite inclined in the same plane this direction though, so everything isn't great, but that's okay because we'll be flying past the planet at that point, so we don't care about the tilt in this direction as much. So now we're nearly to the orbit of Minmus. So now we just need to adjust things a little bit more. So if we want to go out a little bit further, we can just head out this way. And you'll see, just going prograde, it thrusts us further and further out. And you'll see now there is our encounter markers. So closest approach, what's the distance to closest approach? 2,000 kilometers. So now the final 2 markers come into play, so radial and anti-radial. These sort of shift our orbit. So if we're heading this way, and we are, it'll shift our orbit left and right. So if we go left a bit, or right a bit, you'll see those markers get closer or further apart. Now you can use radial to get an encounter just like that. If you're just behind the planet and you want to move further out in that direction, you can easily do so. And you'll see this isn't a terrible amount of delta V, to be honest. It's not much at all. In fact, it doesn't really much matter where on this orbital track that we do this. We're out so far now that we can probably just manually fly this in. So we've got to go and point the maneuver node as normal. And what we probably want to do is just get that lined up. And because 43 is not a lot, it's a burn of 1 second, we're not going to actually go full burn. We're going to go maybe a quarter, something like that. And just shut down. And you'll see we're close enough now to get an encounter anyway. But if you really wanted to just fulfill the maneuver, that is fine. So if we leave that route, you'll see that now we have an encounter. So if we go and focus on Minmus, you'll see where that is. And leaving everything where it is, we can see what effect we have if we just accelerate a little bit more. In that direction, we're bringing everything towards Minmus, which is pretty ideal. And now we can fly it just like you might do otherwise. So again, we'll have these same nodes here on the nav ball, so we can do the same thing here. So if we wanted to say go normal, that'll shift our orbit up and down relative to where it is. So if I wanted to be on this orbital track right here, we could go and point towards normal, anti-normal. Well, this is where I forget which way it actually needs to be, but we'll see very shortly. Do we have enough fuel to do this? Let's just see what it is in this stage. Looks to be fine, yeah. So let's see what anti-normal does at this particular point. Nope, that moves us further away. That's what I was expecting, but I didn't want to say anything just in case I was wrong. So we're going to spin around and do exactly the opposite. Okay, and this is going to tilt our path upwards. There we go. So we're going to cross the orbital track now, maybe a little bit more. There we go. And now we can just sort of choose. You can adjust this further, but to be honest, this is going to be, well, pretty much exactly what we want. So again, because when we make maneuvers at the periapsis, it's most efficient. And in this case, it's really simple because we're already on the orbital track. We don't have to do anything other than just retrograde. So that's sometimes where it's nicer to actually line things up. And we'll get an orbit with 164.3 meters per second. That's quite a large orbit, of course. So we could bring that in a little bit more, and we probably will. It's only a burn of 21 seconds, and we have more than enough fuel for that. So let's get towards here. And as you can see, our satellite, is that a satellite? I think it is. We'll see what it is once we get a little bit closer. In comes our space station. We have got a signal to Kerbin at the moment. Yep, there we go. All right, so it's 16 minutes till we need that maneuver. Why don't we actually go here, however, and what we should be able to do is enable our antenna. Extend the antenna. Okay, now you see our signal strength goes up, 97%. And what do we need? So all we need for this now is to put things in orbit of Minmus, which is straightforward, or should be straightforward, I hope. So now we need to decide to put ourselves back on the maneuver node, and we'll make a maneuver at the periapsis. So, whoops, we don't quite have a level 3 yet. I think level 3 is where you get to be able to say, hey, just point at the maneuver node for me, Jeb, and Jeb will just go, okay, and hopefully not blow us up. Jeb's a bit like that, but it's okay. It's okay. We can recover from explosions with Val. Anyway, here's our maneuver node, and it's only 21 seconds, so we should probably get a lot closer. Warp here. And in we come. And now, again, it doesn't really much matter where we do this, but at the periapsis is most efficient. We're more than close enough to do this, so we're going to full burn. And our orbital track will come around. Because it's bringing in the opposite side of the orbit. Of course, the opposite side is actually escape at the moment, but you get the idea. It's still bringing that in because we're burning retrograde. So in we come. And technically that's an orbit, so all we have to do is maintain stability for 10 seconds. And it won't take very long. Also, you see this notification up here? You get lots and lots of messages whenever any stage has been done. That's also a bug at the moment, I believe. That should be fixed with 1.4.3. Okay, there we go. So building a new orbital station around Minmus is complete. And we have 377,000. Good. But plant flag on Minmus is still to go. So instead of just wasting all this fuel, we can use it to bring down our orbit. We can bring ourselves right in if we need to. So we can bring that in, and it doesn't take very much delta V at all to do this. So do be a little bit careful about going full burn when you're doing things around Minmus. It can be a bit of a health hazard. So what's that now? Let's get it to about there. Should do it. Maybe a bit less. Yeah, 42. We can come around that side just by warping. I don't have a next maneuver. Go away. Let's just warp to here. And again, because I don't have a maneuver node, it doesn't much matter. We'll come around the backside. We'll lose contact with Kerbin, but that doesn't matter at this point. So around we come. And I forgot to put more lights on this thing. I do want to put more lights when we're behind planets, but Minmus is pretty small anyway. So now, again, we're just going to turn retrograde, flipping ourselves around. Although, why is it still saying, oh, we've got a relay? We do have a relay, yes. So that is the Unmoon Aligner over there that we previously did. So we're going to bounce that signal off there and back to Kerbin. Advantage of having a satellite in orbit. And we're going to do the same thing on this side and bring our orbit down again. Again, really carefully, just so that we have plenty of room to maneuver. Now, just like we've done previously, I think when we first landed, I think I sacrificed our craft here. I think it was on the moon though, or was it Minmus? I think I sacrificed this, so I brought in our orbit essentially inside the moon, and that meant that we went for a crash course, and then we discarded this stage. Well, in this case, not so much. However, it would be nice to land down there, and we do have a full fuel tank on the remaining stage, so I think now is a good point just to check the staging. So if we go, well, actually, I think I might leave this stage on here. I think I might rearrange this because this would detach our tank and its engine. And so any ability for it to adjust orbit from this point onwards will be dead if we went for that. So instead, I think what I'll do is I'll detach this. Okay, so here's next. Everything else from that point should just detach. There shouldn't be any problems. It'll just disappear. So let's just do that now. Okay, so now you can see it's a much, much simpler craft. We can bring down our legs for landing. And away that goes with the rest of the station. And did I? Yeah, oh, well, I've got no docking port on this end anyway. The docking port's actually there with the tank. So if we ever wanted to put this into another space station, we'd have to just detach that tank. But we could do. I think we can just shift ships like this. And we can still control it because I've got a unmanned probe on there. Probe body. The Octo. Alright, so now we can do the same thing that we've done before. We can bring ourselves in for a bit of a landing. And because this is over here, it might be nice and easy to land if we... whoops, I think we need to engage the engine first though. You are not engaged yet. So it's now on. Unlike in Realism Overhaul, we get that kind of luxury. And we can bring in our orbit quite significantly, with very, very little fuel expenditure. So in it comes, and it's going to come in into the planet itself. There we go, well, the moon itself. And I'll just increase that a little bit, just so that we can land more towards these flats. There we go. And maybe around there. Okay, so I'll see you when we're a whole lot closer. Okay, here we are. I'm still not flying with the Kerbal Engineer chip attached or anything like that. Instead, we are just flying pretty blind. Minmus is easy enough to do that. As you can see, if I go to full burn, we can drop our speed quite quickly. And in fact, I'm at the right point that now I can probably just switch to Stability Assist and then just push that retrograde marker for surface right towards straight up. So let's just push it that way. Increase the burn a little bit. There we go. Our speed is coming down quite quickly now, so I don't think I need to do too much more. I'll just back off a little bit and keep on herding that towards the straight up vector, or pointing straight at the sky, just so that we come straight down. Now we're over the flats, which is exactly where we want to be. That will do. Oh, that should get us close enough, at least for a 4-point landing, which is what we want. And that incidentally is a good thing to do. Don't try and put 3 legs on. It will cause you problems. Like a Robin Reliant going around the right hand corner, it's not stable. Even though it may seem like it is, just any tilt whatsoever and you'll have some problems. Okay, so 5,000. Obviously we've got to come down a little bit closer, so I'll see you when we're on the ground or very close to it. And in we come for a landing. Hopefully really quite calm. Okay, and gentle, and we're down on our legs. So we can turn SAS off. We're on the flats, so we don't particularly need anything to do here with regards to holding ourselves upright, and we should be able to get out. More importantly, we should be able to let go and turn on our RCS for our suit. And here we go, or on the surface. So we can bring up science here and now. We can get an EVA report. That's pretty good. Let's keep that. And surface sample. That's also really good. We're going to keep that as well. That's 90 science just by itself. So again, we can do that, and we've done our mission. I would have thought. Oh no, we got to plant a flag. That's one more thing. Let's just get away from our craft a little bit. Whoops, maybe a bit too much. The gravity is really, really low here. In fact, so much so, I think I've seen people actually get towards orbit with our paltry little RCS in our suit. So we can plant the flag. And we can call this site Alpha 1. Plaque text Minmawuwa. Woowa? Yeah, Minmawuwa. Okay, so we've now got a nice little flag on where we landed the first time. Now we could, and I think we should, go over there and just see if we can get a different biome. Because if we can, this is, it's saying we're in space near, it landed. But we're in space as soon as we take, one step off the surface. So let's turn on our RCS. Oh, I shouldn't have jumped. I should have just used the RCS instead. Shift uses that. So let's head towards our capsule. Grab onto it. And then we can store our experiments. Great. And now I think we can step off again. And we can sort of head over in that direction, I think. And let's see. Let's take a jump. And that jump can take us really quite far. And let's see if we can get to the edge of the flats and go and get a little bit more science from over there. And here we are, landed near the lowlands, so we can take another EVA report and another surface sample and get another 90 science and another 24 science. So 114, so 128, 228. And we now have to head back over to our capsule. So that can be a long walk if you run out. So make sure you don't run out of EVA propellant, because if you do, then you may come out down and die. So that is at least worthwhile thinking about. Make sure you're a bit careful. And when you're doing this, just so you get the idea, make sure to watch your nav ball, not necessarily the landscape around you. Particularly on some planets, that'll be a really bad idea. But here you can see where you're heading down towards the ground or above the ground by the prograde. So just keep that just above the horizon and you'll just keep going and you'll use very little RCS. And, our sort of speed relative to the surface is around 20 meters per second. So around 20-25 miles an hour or something along those lines, I would imagine. And we're heading back towards our craft. I used a lot more heading out just to make it quicker, but it's fine for coming back in. And of course you do the usual thing for coming back in, so just cancel out your velocity. We can move sideways, so if I just tend to point the lander and I just use my A and D keys, I can make sure that we're now pointed and coming over the top of the lander. Because obviously this prograde vector is equaling where I'm actually pointing, and there is our lander. So at this point we can just sort of reverse and come in for landing. Here we go, reversing. Normally people tend to overshoot this thing, but it's not terribly hard once you're used to it a little bit. Here we come, we're at 7 meters per second, and now we're going to be coming straight down pretty much, so we can just slow ourselves with the shift key and make sure that we land nice and safely with plenty of EVA propellant, which is very, very much a good thing. We couldn't do this anywhere near as easily on the moon. But this sort of leads on to a generic sort of approach for doing science, which is the usual, what is usually referred to as science spam. You build a lander and it can take off and land somewhere else and take off and land somewhere else, and you keep on getting more and more science by doing this. I just happen to do it in our suit because that's cool. And then we can just head around here a little bit, take off, and grab our capsule. There we go, grab and board. And we've got lots of stuff to get going. So we've got EVA reports and surface samples, and now we're ready to head home. While we're at it, we may as well take that last crew report, because why not? It's another 15 science, we may as well. And we can ignore the rest of that for now. And because it's Minmus, all we need to do is take off, and that's relatively straightforward. Just shift upwards, turn on SAS, of course, and then we're going to head over towards the east. Nothing too special about that, just head 45 degrees and you'll get the sort of nice maximum way of getting towards orbit, and we only need around 12k, so we can just increase our burn until we get to 12k. 10, 11, 12, that'll do. And then we can just warp up here. You know, I'll skip us forward because essentially warping isn't going to work until we're high enough. And here we are near the apoapsis, I should say, and we can just burn this a little bit just to get us into some kind of orbit. Don't have to terribly worry about it too much. Certainly not near Minmus. So it's going to be a bit of an odd orbit, but that will do. Let's just get it a little bit higher. Yeah, 10k will be fine. We're not going to hit any mountains that way. And then, of course, we've got to plot our course back towards Kerbin. We've got half a fuel tank, and we should have enough. And I think we're actually coming around the right side of the planet, so I think that's almost the right direction to go in. We just want to sort of leave around maybe here, so we can have maneuver, more prograde, and that's lots of prograde. So much so that I don't need that much. Let's bring it in a little bit. Let's see where this takes us. So here we are. There's our periapsis. We want to bring that in, but we don't have to worry too much about doing that at all by this. But this is costing more and more delta V. So let's go the other way, shall we? Whoops. Let's go the other way, shall we? Yeah, I think I just want to get us to a point where the apoapsis is on the other side. That'll be enough. And then once we're free and clear of Minmus itself, we'll then bring in the other side of the orbit, and that should be just fine. So that is coming up in 6 minutes. And then with that maneuver done, we're now on an orbital track around Kerbin and off from the apoapsis, but it's far enough that we can just point retrograde at this point. Again, backwards around our orbit, and we can bring that in quite easily, just using that and the overhead view. We've got plenty of fuel left, so we can afford to just bring that in, as you might expect otherwise. And as we get closer, we can just reduce that. Hopefully don't hit the moon on the way in. So in it comes, still plenty of fuel. And 20. So we need to spin around a little bit. And just increase on the other side. And play around with that a little bit. And we get to a 28 periapsis, just as normal. And we can bring ourselves in just as we've done before. And here we are, coming in for a very watery landing, just off the coast of one of the continents. And let's just fast forward a little bit. There we go. And we're down and recovered. And here we are, look at that. We got 315 science. We earned 246.8 on that particular vessel, on that particular mission, I should say. Parts, well, we recovered 700 funds. There's not much left of our, it was like 40,000 or something to launch, but our funds are now up to 479 again from 179, so we gained 300k. And of course, Jeb earned 3 XP and he's ready for more. So we've earned some science, so let's go and take a look at what we can actually spend it on. We don't have quite enough for 2 nodes. Slightly annoying. These Twitch engines are really useful for landers, so that's definitely something to worth thinking about. Advanced Fuel Systems gets us the connector port from Kerbal Inventory System. It's definitely a mod that I wish was in the base game, because it's very, very nice to be able to assemble things when you're on the surface of other planets, or take things off the outside and reassemble things in orbit and all kinds of fun stuff that really should be in the base game. Various RCS fuel tanks, fair enough. Actuators, we don't need the advanced grabbing unit yet, but you can use that in orbit to grab other vessels if you want to clean up orbit the slower manual way rather than terminate things. Advanced landing, well, that's a bigger heat shield and the big landing struts. Specialized control, monoprop tanks, nope. We can upgrade to the Mark 1-3, so this is the making history. large capsule. So we've already got the 3 crew capacity Russian capsule unlocked. This one is, of course, the American similar design. That also gets us the Mark II lander can, which is the bigger version, and the Lunar excursion module. And I think we will be in position to use that, but I think we want the engines first. The other one, I think I'm going to get next after this one. I'm probably going to go for. After that, I'm going to go for that lab, I think, because the lab is great for further science and forms a good. Because it has a crew capacity of 2, it forms a good core for a space station if you wanted to put a space station up there. And then you want precision engineering, probably for larger. That's the relay antenna that I want, with the Hex or the Octo 2, whichever is appropriate, and some more antennas, and then advanced electrics for the bigger solar panels. So there's 4 of those nodes I want. That precision propulsion, the advanced exploration in that order, and then precision and advanced electrics. Probably advanced electrics first, to be honest. I like the unfoldable and refoldable photovoltaic panels, which means we can usually recover them when possible, whenever possible. Okay, so let's take this one to start off with. It has the tanks. The only one I'm actually interested in is this Twitch fuel tank. Liquid fuel engine. It just lets us put engines around the outside rather than directly below, which means that we can have those engines not interfering with the landing legs, and that means underneath the lander you could use something like a docking port that would be fine. You know, it would mount perfectly well on that flat surface, and you would use probably 4 of these or something like that, because they're not very much thrust at all, but you can use them to great effect. So we've got to get more science, and that'll be more next episode. We've got plenty of money now to actually make some more launches, and well, I'll take a look at the at the various missions next episode. Why not? But I did also add the transfer window planner and Kerbal alarm clock, so we can see that we have a transfer window coming up for Juna in 84 days, which may be something useful to add, because once you're out where we've been, that same rocket can probably have a lighter unmanned probe, and we can probably even send that to Juna, as long as we have the antenna to be able to communicate with that there. So this episode we've got 2 missions done at once. Launch a space station and then abandoned part of it. It became a lander. We got landed and put a flag up on Minmus. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. Feel free to give it a thumbs up, subscribe and share if you have, and leave me some comments below on what you think, and if you've got any further ideas, more than happy to hear them. Once again, as always, thanks for watching.